My name is Tyrone Glover. I'm the co-chair of the Ralph Slaughter Oratorical Contest. This is our 2014 competition. We have some great young men up here, some great speeches, but now I have to sit in the audience, and I will turn the mic over to the chairman, Brother Eric Richard.
Thank you, Brother Glover. I also would like to thank the parents that have endeavored to get them here on a Saturday. I know it's taking time out of your time and your day as well, but we thank you that you bring them here because, again, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. We find that in mentoring our young men, we ask that, and we look forward to them being leaders and fine, upstanding citizens that we can rely on later in the future. So with that, I'd like to introduce our judges of the contest.
My name is Darrell Davis. I'm an assistant principal at Woodlawn Middle School. I've been in education for 11 years, assistant principal for 3 years. I'm a member of Pride of Denham Springs, Lodge 254. I'm an officer, captain in the Army Reserve, member of Cap Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm here to see what these young men have.
Hi, I've introduced myself to some, but again, I'm Kiara Hill, a teacher at Woodlawn Middle School. I too have been in education for 15 years, and again, good luck to you young men, and this is a great thing that you all are doing.
Good afternoon, my name is Armand Duncan. I'm actually a recent graduate of Peabody Magnet High School class of 2014 and a current student at Southern University at Baton Rouge. I participated in this very contest in 2012 and won first place. Best of luck to you gentlemen, okay? All right.
Thank you very much. Just to give you a little background on our contestants, what impressed me very much about them is they all have a 3-point or better grade point average. We have Mr. Christopher Austin from Richwood High, 3.0. We have Mr. Oscar Onley from McMain High School, 3.5. We have Claude Albritton from Sam Houston High School. He carries a 3.8 grade point. We have Ronald Washington, Peabody Magnet High as well, 3.1. Mario Fair from Madison High School, he carries a 3.6 GPA. Ezekiel Johnson from Bolton High School, 3.6 grade point average. And Calvin Wells Jr. from McKinley High, 3.5. So as you see, we have some of the best, some of the brightest. We have some very intelligent young men, and we're proud to have them here. Like I said to them earlier, that just by the fact that they're here, they're winners already. Just the fact that they're standing up and meeting the challenge, they're winners already. So without further ado, we're going to move forward and present to you. One second. We'd like to have our grand senior one to say a few words. He is also over the contest. He's our
Again, thank you for coming out. It's just a pleasure to be here. A lot of hard work has gone into this. And I'm just glad to see the many of you sitting out here. And we spoke to the young men this morning, and we somewhat gave them a challenge. Because I was speaking with them this morning, and I told them, I said, look, if you're an athlete, and you think you can leap bounds and leap hills and tall mountains, and all of a sudden you blow out a knee, what happens to your life? All you knew was football or basketball or track or baseball. And you blow out a knee, then you're done. That's why this is the impetus. This is the beginning of where you go from here. Most of them are either seniors or about to be seniors. And so the whole life starts all over again. And it's important. And I gave them some parameters on how the judges are going to judge them. Speaking soft, I told them it's not going to get it done today. If you don't open your mouth and show the people and tell them who you are, then your scores will be very low. And the guy sitting next to you on your right will more than likely win the contest. Thank you. We appreciate you. And now it's time to have some fun. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Just to give everyone our theme, this year's theme, it is in memory of Trayvon Martin. What effect does the Stand Your Ground law have on the black community, and should it change the way we teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials? Again, in memory of Trayvon Martin, what effect does the Stand Your Ground law have on the black community, and should it change the way we teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials? We try to come up with the most current themes. We try to give the young men something that they can relate to, as well as go out and research, use their present knowledge, and go back and find some prior things that have been written about the subject, so they can do the research part of that. Also, we guide and direct them in their oration and the way that they stand, present themselves, present their topic to the audience. And without further ado, we're going right into our contest. Contestant number 1, Mr. Chris Austin.
Perception is defined as the way you think about or understand someone or something. Each human is uniquely made, and although several of us share the same opinion or perception, there are numerous people who do not share the same beliefs as someone else. In order for me to feel that I am in danger, my perception of the potentially ominous situation has to be perceived as threatening. What may offend, frighten, or threaten me may not offend, frighten, or threaten my neighbor. When you evaluate the Stand Your Ground law, perception plays a key role in its validity. The question then arises, is it fair for someone to become a victim of violence based on someone else's perception of them? Cultural differences separate the American people. America needs these differences. In the Louisiana State Constitution, Article 2 says in the Declaration of Rights, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property except by due process of law. The third article expounds on the second by saying in Section 2, no person shall be denied equal protection of the laws. No law shall discriminate against a person because of birth, age, sex, culture, physical condition, political ideas, or affiliations. No law shall arbitrarily, capriciously, or unreasonably discriminate against a person because of race, religious ideas, beliefs, or affiliations. Slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited, except in the latter case as punishment for crime. What that means in our modern day language is that no law can be based on personal mood, personal accounts, bias, or personal perception. The great United States of America was founded on being able to be different. The founding fathers of this country came here in search of freedom from religious oppression. But its present circumstance of this union lie in terrible irony of its founding principles. People are judged by their culture and by the stereotypes attached to their race, sex, and or wealth class. People fear the unknown because of racial segregation and tension based on historical occurrences. Minorities are often viewed as a threat. It is a common belief that minorities are often viewed as not equal and entitled to the masses. Due to this belief, minorities are often viewed as a threat. Black men are strong and assertive by nature and by our original culture. This makes many people uneasy and fearful, but it is not a valid reason to kill. The Stand Your Ground legislation in Louisiana, better known as the Castle Doctrine, allows for a person to be killed or injured as long as the progressor sees them as threatened. As stated previously, no, the law allows racial, cultural, and sexist bias to be justified. In particular, the Trayvon Martin case, where an unarmed teenager my age was killed because an adult said he looked suspicious. For centuries, we've looked suspicious. It is a known stereotype for us to fit the description. The stand your ground law in the black community can be interpreted as follows. If a black man is killed, he is guilty. If you perceive me to be aggressive and you kill me, is it because you thought I was a danger to you? Many people believe that if Trayvon Martin would have been white and George Zimmerman would have been African American, the outcome of that trial would have been totally different. The stand your ground law does not affect the black community any more now than it has in the past. The laws were not made for us. Trayvon Martin's untimely, unfortunate, and unjust death are just one of the many that have occurred. The history books and graveyards hold many names of the forgotten black men killed because of racial tension and those standing their ground. The United States Constitution was written long before the black man was considered a person that had rights. Therefore, the laws were not made for us, nor to protect us. In order for the black race, even more directly the black man, to overcome the unjust actions of the law, we as black men must restore our station. In the past, the black man was respected in the community. He dressed to be respected. He acted in a manner that demanded respect. They took care of business. We need a renaissance to awaken the sleeping spirit of the black man.
Thank you very much. Also, I said earlier that he was a 3.0 student from Richwood High. Also, he'd like to be a businessman. That is his ambition in life, to be a businessman. And with that kind of character and that kind of delivery, I think that he'll do fine. Great job. Next, we have Ronald Washington. Just a little bit about Ronald. He will be attending UL with a degree with a double major in visual arts and music therapy from Peabody Magnet High, 3.1 grade point. Mr. Ronald Washington.
The shooting death of Trayvon Martin brought a lot of attention to so-called stand your ground self-defense laws. The tragic situation caused many people to question the wisdom of stand your ground laws and still others to demand their repeal. But what are stand your ground laws? How do they work? And what purpose do they serve? It is impossible to discuss stand your ground laws without first explaining the concept of duty to retreat. In its most extreme form, the duty to retreat states that a person who is under an imminent threat of personal harm must retreat from the threat as much as possible before responding with force in self-defense. These days, states that retain the duty generally incorporate a variety of the duty with somewhat less stringent requirements. Stand your ground laws are essentially a revocation of the duty to retreat. Stand your ground laws generally state that under certain circumstances, individuals can use force to defend themselves without first attempting to retreat from the danger. The purpose behind these laws is to remove any confusion about when individuals can defend themselves and to eliminate prosecutions of people who legitimately use self-defense even though they had not attempted to retreat from the threat. In many states, with stand your ground laws, a claim of self-defense under a stand your ground law offers immunity from prosecution rather than an affirmative defense. This means that rather than presenting a self-defense argument at an assault trial, for example, an individual could claim self-defense under the state's stand your ground laws and avoid trial altogether. States with stand your ground laws differ on whether the law applies to instances involving lethal force. with some states retaining the duty to retreat with legal force is involved, and others removing the duty to retreat under all circumstances. Stand your ground laws are often criticized as encouraging violence. Critics claim that the laws lead to a shoot first, ask questions later attitude that results in more injuries and deaths that would occur without the law. Proponents of stand your ground counter the laws allow people to protect themselves without worrying about whether they have retreated sufficiently before force. In the case of Trayvon Martin, this too was a shoot first, ask questions later ordeal. This African American male teenager lost his life because of his appearance. There is no possible way any child will make any grown man feel threatened under any circumstance. The black community has been bullied for years. Trayvon Martin is not, and I hate to say it, will not be the last case like this. The Caucasian community had power, or shall I say somewhat of authority, for so long to where now, if you're this color, it's life. But if you're this color, it's a misdemeanor. We have to teach our African American sons to always respect law and law enforcement officials, but to never be treated less of their character. We live in a free world. We as blacks can do just as much as the whites can. So no, we don't have to change the way we teach our sons how to react to law enforcement officials. If you've raised that child with manners, respect to anyone, whether it's a police officer, district attorney, judge, or any other law court official, respect will show in their presence and in the way they hold conversation with that person. So in closing, think about your son and your daughter in today's society. This world is not a safe world, and it's not a fair world. Trayvon Martin was nothing more than an African-American male teenager who was walking to his father's fiancée home with his Skittles, his tea, and his hoodie. What weapon did he have in possession? Why did he have to lose his life? Why was he shot and killed? It was all because he was black. If Trayvon was here today, he would say, "Hi, my name is Trayvon Martin, and I was killed by a man who had the wrong perception of me. My life is now gone because of the color of my skin and not who I was." Parents, please care for, love, and cherish your child. Know where they are at all times. This world isn't fair. I lost my life, but the only thing my killer gained was freedom. I was judged by the color of my skin tone and what I was wearing. I was a helpless African-American male teenager who was just walking home. Yes, it was me who lost my life, but next time, could it be your son or your daughter? Will there be a next time? Is it a guarantee that this won't happen again? No one knows. But the black community must stand their ground and fight for one another and not against each other. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Thank you.
Also, I was remiss in giving the districts that the contestants were far. So contestant number 1, Chris Dawson, is from District 14. Contestant number 2, Ronald Washington, is from District 6. Next contestant, Claude Albrighton from Sam Houston High School. His career choice is to become a pediatric neurosurgeon. Carries a 3.8 grade point. Please.
7.
District number 7.
Good afternoon. In memory of Trayvon Martin, death is man's most heartbreaking burden. It is the only force powerful enough to move a nation toward change that results from recognizing the evils that oppress us. The most tragic flaw that we all face is our natural instinct to inconsiderately inflict harm on others to safeguard ourselves. The Stand Your Ground law encourages citizens to act on this instinct. The Stand Your Ground law is a self-defense law that explicitly gives individuals the right to use lethal force in order to defend themselves in a dangerous situation, without first having to attempt to avoid said situation. Like the Supreme Court, interpreting the framers' meanings of the Constitution, United States citizens are given the right to make discernments about their laws in regards to their own moral judgments. One of the country's leading examples of this law's shortcomings is George Zimmerman's murder of Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was shot in the chest by local neighborhood watch volunteer George Zimmerman on account of self-defense the night of February 26, 2012. Zimmerman spotted Trayvon and reported him to the police for exhibiting suspicious behavior. Before officers could arrive to the scene, Zimmerman took action under the impression of being threatened by the team. The gunshots that took Trayvon's life sparked the flames of a nationwide reform. Due to the reference to Trayvon's race and dialogue between Zimmerman and the police officer, the public was led to believe that his intentions of harming Trayvon derived purely from racism. This bit of evidence had enough force to drive the African American community's interest in these affairs. Anger towards this injustice festered in the community, which led to recognition of the dangers of the Stand Your Ground law. African Americans across the nation began the movement led by none other than Trayvon's mother, Sabrina Fulton, to adjust this law to prevent this injustice from hurting any more American families. The rise of these events has brought the matter of community safety to a controversial standpoint. Citizens who were once thought to be safe in the land of the free began to question the officials appointed to protect them. This was no longer a war against our Caucasian counterparts, but against the inhumanity that the Stand Your Ground law gave people the permission to act upon, against the inhumanity that has surrounded our children since birth and paints their portraits of security, against the idealistic belief that law enforcement officials constantly have our best interest at heart. This is the cruelty that both the black community and all other Americans fight against. No cold-hearted act exists that is worse than hostility towards a brother or sister. For that hostility will only dissipate character and link together a chain of bitterness. Law enforcement officials are nothing more than common people who have earned badges. Common people being those that you stand alongside and have communion with on a daily basis. In that sense, they are like brothers or sisters. Therefore, it it is in no way right for us to teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials with resentment. We should continue to instill the values of respect and compassion toward those who reside in power over them. In regards to that which may compel them, we must teach our sons to be cautious but never contentious. The blessings of love will always triumph the discord of hate. Victory over injustice is inevitably the best outcome from Trayvon's death. He served as an honorable sacrifice, so no other child will have to. The darkness of his passing has given our sons and daughters a brighter future, and for that, they have nothing to fear. Thank you.
And next we will have Ezekiel Joseph. He attends Bolton High School. His career choice is nanotechnology. 3.6 grade point average. He's representing District 8.
Before I continue to my speech, I'd like to ask how each and every one of you guys are doing today. And good luck to the rest of my competition as I'm about to give my speech. Imagine this. A young teenage boy is playing basketball. Midday, points to a car, marvels how nice it is. He has a school hoodie and some shorts and some beat-up shoes. A white man sees him while walking and shoots him because he really doesn't care for African Americans. The boy is killed, and later the man is freed in court because he says he was standing his ground. Does this seem right? Place any one of my other competitors up here, and in that boy's condition, and in that boy's situation. No. The African American community is now being persecuted for what? For being African Americans. The Stand Your Ground law, the pursuit of justice and self-defense, an active law and additional protection, or the greatest detraction from the African American community. What if I told you the latter is the definite truth? It is the greatest detraction from the African American community. But how? To answer this, we must first address the primary topic. What effect does the Stand Your Ground law have on the black community? And should it change the way we teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials? First, let's start off with the Stand Your Ground law. It's a law whose origin dated in 2005 as a result of a Florida case that pitted a 77-year-old man against an intruder who, according to media sources, said that the intruder came to his trailer and thus was promptly killed. The man demanded immediate justification on the account that he was standing his ground, thus promoting senators to promote this bill. This bill says that in the United States, a person may justifiably use force in self-defense without an obligation to retreat first. Thus meaning, if any one of us here looks threatening or looks dangerous to another person, they don't have the obligation to retreat. It's their obligation to look less threatening. Upon initial observation, there are certain facets about this bill that are exceptionally flawed. First off, the vagueness of the bill in general. It does not define what self-defense is, nor does it provide any gauge as to whether we're supposed to feel endangered or threatened. Additionally, there is a rise in crime rates. Economic professors found that the adoption of the Stand Your Ground law caused a statistically significant increase in raw homicide rate and had only a very small positive deterrence of crime. This mitigates all claim made by the affirmative that this bill actually reduces crime. Also, upon further research, there's an even more disturbing truth, that the case that prompted this bill itself is indeed distorted. The man actually saw the intruder from his trailer about 30 feet away and shot first, without further observation, surveillance, or investigation, which directly correlates to the effect on the African American community. The Stand Your Ground law, as I reiterate, is the greatest detriment to the African American community. First of all, let me address the fact that African Americans are, if not the most, one of the most maltreated races in all of American history. Even to this day, from slavery to the present day, we are still struggling to gain true equality. Even in our justice system, there is an ever-present racial divide between blacks and whites. A black man and a white man can commit the same crime, and for some strange reason, the African American will get more time in jail. The same also goes for this law. For this law does not defend the African American, but instead defends the wrongful acts done to them. A recent example, the George Zimmerman case, where young Trayvon Martin was killed in self-defense as Zimmerman is declared innocent on the account that he stood his ground. He found Trayvon Martin to be threatening. The black community now has to conform to survive, meaning that now African Americans cannot be African Americans. Lastly, should it change the way we teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials? Yes, absolutely. Since I stated before, African Americans can now be killed for no reason at all. And that person can be declared innocent on the account of them standing their ground or finding another person threatening. As I've said before, there's no gauge to even base this on. So it can be abusive. Overall, this law means that we must now teach our sons to be dangerously careful. For the law does not promote itself to any specific occupation. We must teach them how to disguise their dangerous appearance. We cannot put our full trust into law enforcement officials. We can no longer bear public hatred toward these law enforcement officials, since the Stand Your Ground law will justify any act of retaliation from the officers. So, as an African American community, what do? What is our goal to accomplish here? Ladies and gentlemen, the main thing that we have to accomplish is that we must fight for what is right. We must conform to survive, as what I've said up there on my speech. I'm saying that each and every one of us has to fight, not physically, but civilly. We must show them that we can obey by the laws, and we are people too. We have our own rights. We have our own obligations. We have our own responsibilities. For we risk losing our identity and our progress as an African American people. Thus, for as Alan Locke, a famous philosopher, once said, without an identity, we are nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next contestant is Kelvin Wells. He's representing District 3. It's McKinley High School, and he wanted to become a United States Navy JAG Corps officer and a most worshipful Grand Master of the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of Louisiana and jurisdiction.
Good afternoon. Historically speaking, the Castle Doctrine permits the use of lethal force within an occupied structure only if the person using the lethal force is not engaged in an illegal activity and the person must reasonably believe that lethal force and only lethal force is necessary to prevent an assault upon that person, an assault upon another, or the commission of a forcible felony. Florida expanded and popularized the council doctrine by creating a stand your ground clause in 2004 to allow anyone within its territorial boundaries to use lethal force, not only in an occupied structure, but anywhere a person has a right to be. Only if that person using lethal force is not engaged in unlawful activity and the person reasonably believes lethal force is necessary to prevent death or great bodily harm to oneself or another, or again, the commission of a forcible felony. The advent of this law has put a bullseye, if you will, on the African American community and ignited new discussions on racism and race relations in America. One key discussion examines how the enforcement of the Stand Your Ground law vulnerably opens the African American community to legal attacks through racial profiling. It should be noted, however, that the Stand Your Ground law itself should not change the way we teach our sons to react to law enforcement officials. However, the use of racial profiling as a factor to define when one's use of lethal force is necessary and reasonable during the enforcement of the Stand Your Ground clause must be eradicated. Most cases involving the legality of a shooting before the enactment of the Stand Your Ground clause in many of the states in the United States involve police officers. However, with the advent of this law, the general public appears to have been given a license to kill. The key words in the Stand Your Ground law require the person who decided to stand his or her ground to not be engaged in any illegal activity. This requirement was a major point of controversy during Florida's George Zimmerman case. It was argued, perhaps not enough, by the prosecution that Zimmerman lost his right to invoke the Stand Your Ground law as a defense when Zimmerman continued to follow Trayvon Martin after receiving directives from law enforcement officials not to. Zimmerman became the aggressor, the stalker, the criminal, and his conduct should have been considered unlawful activity. It was at this point that the jury should have stripped the Stand Your Ground defense from George Zimmerman and found him guilty. Why didn't the jury find Zimmerman guilty when they knew and heard the facts of the case, just like you and I knew and heard the facts of the case? Brothers and sisters, I submit racial profiling has long been a crimson stain on the pristine roads of justice in America. Far too often are black males stereotyped, generalized, and categorized by the actions of a few. Some in our society see all adolescent black males as unteachable, unreachable, untouchable menaces to society. Racial profiling is so widespread, I'm going to skip clean across the southern portion of this country to a study conducted by the United States Department of Justice in the Wilshire area of Los Angeles, California, a city comparable in diversity and racial makeup to the United States as a whole, where the phenomenon of racial profiling was fully illustrated. In the study, only 16% of the population of Wilshire is African American. However, 77% of the persons who police detained, initiated traffic stops against, or investigated were African American. These lopsided statistics capture the grim reality of racial profiling perfectly. Most of the people who were searched for black, even though only a small percentage of the population of the total area are black. Any young black man walking down the street is automatically deemed more suspicious than his non-white counterpart. This sad truth is the product of many years of racial discrimination. Racial profiling is what makes the Stand Your Ground law so detrimental to our communities. Because of racial profiling, the person most likely to be stood against is an African American male between the ages of 16 and 25. The person least likely to be allowed to stand his or her ground is that same African American male between the ages of 16 and 25. This leads to my final question. Should we teach our sons to react differently to law enforcement officials? The answer is clear and simple, no. First, we must continue to teach our sons that the police are there to protect them and serve the general public, and that the vast majority of law enforcement officers harbor no prejudice against us. Secondly, we must teach our sons to trust police to the extent that each officer allows him or herself to be trusted. Furthermore, we must teach our sons to present themselves correctly to the law enforcement officials that they may encounter. Instead of shying away and glancing around nervously, maintain and hold eye contact and greet them with a firm handshake and a howdy do you. Fourthly, also, we must teach our sons to use standard English when speaking, not only to law enforcement officers, but when communicating in general. One of the first ways people evaluate a person's intelligence is through the quality of their speech. Teaching the next generation to expand its vocabulary beyond the dark confines of Ebonics is vital if we are to succeed. In conclusion, it is true that the Stand Your Ground law presents a new obstacle to the Black community. However, it is not an obstacle that we cannot overcome. Through education on the law and race relations, and through our efforts to positively impact and teach our youth to better themselves, we can easily negate the prejudiced effects of the Stand Your Ground law. While others stand their ground with violence and bloodshed, we will stand our ground with education, truth, equity, justice, and love. Thank you.
Our next contestant, Onley from McMain High School, carries a 3.5 grade point average. He's representing District 1. He would like to be a football player and major in architecture. At this time, Mr. Onley.
Excuse me while I give my honors to America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Every day across America, children in the classrooms recite the Pledge of Allegiance as a reminder of the promises so guaranteed to all citizens regardless of race and or gender. However, in recent years, there seems to be a rash in cases where specific oaths of the Pledge of Allegiance have been left out. Watson Adelson, Miranda Alexander, Jordan Davis, and Trayvon Martin. What are the liberty and justice for these victims of the Stand Your Ground law? In these cases where justice seems to elude the victims, there is a growing and legitimate concern that America is turning into an abyss of racial divide. We can conclude that the people that stood up for the liberty, equality, and peace of America did all their hard work to last for so long in the future. Through our history, there have been many events that have laid a prolonged impact in the Black community. Slavery, segregation, the civil rights movement, and in today's tumultuous times, the Stand Your Ground law. Most of these events have had a bruise on America's faith of democracy, a bruise that has left brutal reminders that in the Black community that equality has not been 100% reached. When the civil rights movement has, in some ways, healed equality, it has not been totally eradicated, by evidence by the battering of the Stand Your Ground law. In the Black community, these laws, in which most cases state that a person does not have the duty to retreat before using force in self-defense, have led the Black community to develop a sense of mistrust in the American government, develop a keener sense of image in which we project, and develop a unity that has not been seen since the civil rights movement. The Stand Your Ground law is bad because it harms innocent Black victims. This law is mostly targeted on Black victims. Though it seems we try to use it against victims, the government won't let us. I think this is because we as Black people have a historical reputation. Since the 1500s, which was the start of it, we were considered part-time servants to the English and British people. Martin Luther King has made a huge impact in America, making sure he advocated for all the rights of all people, especially Blacks. However, America has struggled to trust African American people have struggled to trust the American government, and for a good reason. When Black America seems to be on the edge of renewing its faith in the American government, for example, with the election of President Barack Obama as the first African American president. Then injustice in the criminal court system causes people, African Americans, to snatch back his faith and turn questioning eyes to the American government and white America for answers that no one appears to have. The Stand Your Ground law created a deeper sense of mistrust in the American government. It makes us confused regarding the reason why whites act on a law so immediately. It's like an excuse to kill someone. According to the USnews.com, opponents of the law claim that they give too much freedom to use such force, making the law a license to kill rather than a protective measure. Therefore, if America wants to regain the trust of all its citizens, then, and only then, must we demand that the Stand Your Ground law be abolished in the hopes of saving more lives and saving families from unnecessary pain. In addition to developing mistrust, the Stand Your Ground law has also made the Black community more aware of the image that in which we project. While we have always been told as Black boys not to sag our pants and wear hoodies in light of the Trayvon Martin's tragedy, this message takes on a more critical meaning. Unfortunately, until the stereotypes are eradicated, we as Black boys and men must be more careful of the manner in which we carry ourselves. This so-called Stand Your Ground law shouldn't change how we, as Black young men, act around law enforcement. On CNN, according to LeVar Burton, he said, "Every time I get stopped by the police, I take my hat and my sunglasses off, stick my hands out of the window, because I want the officer to be as comfortable as possible when approaching the vehicle. Why do I do this? Because I live in America." He also said that, "I teach my son to act in the same way," and he is 33 years old. So it is clear that we know how to act, behave when the police stop us. So this law shouldn't impact our reactions toward law enforcement. They're only making it worse for us. Like the Phoenix, the African American community seems to have risen from ashes of tragedy and injustice to speak as a unified voice. Since the Civil Rights Movement, this voice has become a whisper of complacency. However, this voice resonates loud and clear that it reaches across America to find hope and justice for the Trayvon Martins and Jordan Davises of this world. As we struggle to make America hear us, they seem to not be listening. It is up to each and every one of us that our voices are not silenced in the America that we have helped build. Therefore, the Stand Your Ground law should be abolished under all circumstances to seize this despicably heinous acts whatsoever.
For our final contestant of the evening, we have Mr. Canario Fair. He's representing District 11. He's a Madison High School student. He carries 3.6 grade point average. And he is simply interested in becoming a successful man in Christ.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you all. First, honoring God, our Father, the Honorable Dr. Slaughter, District Deputy McFarland, Worshipful Master Prince, our judges, and all other powerful men and women of the Masonic and Eastern Star Orders. I am here to briefly share my opinion of how the Stand Your Ground law affects the Black community and if it should change our son's teachings on how to react to law enforcement officials. Certain situations are viewed different ways by different people. Some may feel one way about a subject, and some may feel another. One controversial aspect is the Stand Your Ground law. This law gives American citizens the right to use deadly force in contrast to evading a potentially threatening situation. This law has vastly erupted controversy among quote-unquote Black America. Trayvon Martin is just one renowned statistic of this law. Sarcastically, I find it funny how a young African-American male can be killed and his killer is set free. The Stand Your Ground law caused and too supported this freedom. As a Black community, this situation should not, under any means, be resting as it is today. I cannot even begin to actually detail the effect this law has on our community. Although, I will say that young Black men will begin to think and reevaluate consequences before action is taken. Just like it was Trayvon, it could have possibly been me, or you, or anyone of you. With knowing this comes the question of all. What can be taught to prevent situations such as these from reoccurring in the future? To begin, general respect should be taught to young African American males. Whatever happened to yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, and no ma'am? The ball has been dropped and it is left up to every man, standing, and woman possible to pick it back up. Young men in today's society learn to do things such as driving, but fail to tie a hit time. It is cool to carry guns and drugs, but unforeseen to carry a book. As you see, respect is the fundamental lesson of honor and integrity. The younger generation has lost sight of honor, respect, and real success due to failure to see the young closest to rising. Upcoming generations need to know that their pathways should not be confused as their destinations. God is the holder of our lives, and everything made by God, he said it was good. Therefore, faith should not, under any circumstance, be lost, just because things are a bit rocky. Or I have been taught that if we do not go through a little bit of a rocky time, how is it that you would possibly appreciate smooth times? It is just lessons like these that can save lives. For we all should just trust in God for every situation, no matter what it is. Walk by faith and not by sight, because there's some things that we all go through that we may not be able to see, but God can. We should not fear the Stand Your Ground law, nor the officials behind this law. Though it is believed that the law is targeted at African American men, I know someone who can turn tables and work things out for the good who love it. Men, women, and all parents, teach your sons to trust, love, and live for God, and he will live through them. We do not need these teachings to begin tomorrow or next week, but we need them to start now. The devil is a busy person, but that only signifies that we as God's army need to become even busier. One thing I do know for myself, and have been taught, the book of Mark even speaks on it, is that we will be hated by all people for his name's sake. But if we simply endure to the end, we shall all be saved. And upon my closure, I'd like to leave every man in this building with a challenge. Inspire, motivate, cultivate, lead, empower, and overall support Black America and its young people, both those on the right track and those going astray. For we do not need any more tragedies, but simply triumphs of success. Thank you, and God bless you all.
At this time, I'd like all of our contestants to stand. Audience, would you please give them a resounding round of applause? just by the fact that you came and showed up, everyone is a winner.
Amen.
At this time, we're going to allow our judges to tally. We also would ask that Brother Patrick Williams come and give us a little rendition of his musical stylings. And I'd like to thank everyone that showed up to participate and to hear these gentlemen. I think they are a very fine group of young men. And also we'd like to thank everyone that worked with these young men, parents, teachers, all of those that helped them with their speeches and or allowed them to give their speech and be critiqued by them. We'd like to thank everyone that had taken part. Thank you. Mr. Williams, if you will. Again, we'd like to thank everybody that came out. This has been, from last year's competition, collaboration between myself and Brother Glover. We have been doing some things, and we try to come up every year with a topic that's close to our hearts, as well as something that we can allow the contestants to do their research and to show their oratory skills. So we're proud of where we've gone, but we also look forward to the day that we have 16 contestants that will represent one of each of the Masonic districts. And we're getting closer and closer to that. And I'd like to thank all of the district deputy grand masters. I'd like to thank all of the masters and all the people involved that help us to put this program on. We are very proud of it. We're very proud of the young men that come out and compete. We think that they are stand-up gentlemen, and we're behind them in every endeavor. As a matter of fact, I've been asked by several of the brothers here to get addresses and phone numbers because they'd like to reach out to the young men after this is all over. And I think that is a very noble undertaking. And I'd like to get a round of applause for all those that have. At this time, we'll ask that all of the parents of our contestants, would you please stand? Again, thank you very much. I know you are proud of your young men, and we are equally as proud. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Contestants, first of all, would you mind giving them another round of applause? My name is Eric Vieira. I'm from District 1 in New Orleans. Well, I grew up in the projects where drugs, death, and violence was the norm, common occurrence. Okay? Since then, though, I have worked at Comcast, I worked at Apple, and currently I'm a contractor at NASA. With God in your life, you can do absolutely anything. The way I live my life is, I have the saying, mind over matter and God over all. Because God gave us all the gift of the free will of choice. So no matter what happens, who says what, who does what, and whatever goes on around you, you have the choice to either engage in it or walk away. Amen. So with that being said, put God in everything that you do, and you can literally manifest what you desire. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, brother, for those words of encouragement.
This contest is a stepping stone. Look how many African American males are outside on the block, and look where you are. So like they said, many times you're already a leader. So don't be afraid to lead. Like I said, it's easy to be like everyone else, but everyone is not a leader. So that being said, we're going to turn it over to the men that's running this program, and keep your heads up because you're all winning.
I'm just so glad that our audience have a visiting dignitary here from the great state of Ohio, Grandmaster Smith. We just want to ask you to come for a minute and give these brothers brief words of encouragement, if you would, sir, in your own way.
Thank you. And to Dr. Slaughter, Honorable Most Worshipful Grand Master, and to the Deputy Grand Master James Baker, to all the other dignitaries and officers present. It's an honor and privilege to have had an opportunity to be here, to see and witness such outstanding group of young men as yourselves. That excites me to no end to see what's going on in the jurisdiction of Louisiana and with you. I'm from a state that we have a deep enrichment program for young men, the Fairgrounds Girls Assembly. But the quality of the young men that we are now engaging in are nowhere the level that you gentlemen are at this point in your life. I want to commend you on your oratorical endeavors and commend you on the way that you express yourself. You will go far in anything that you are willing and want to do, and you've already probably decided, and God will order your steps. What brother told you earlier is a true testament. I'm a true testament to that. Fourth generation Mason that had no idea that this is where I would be. So you do the things that your parents have asked you to do and be obedient. And you have shown that you are. And anything that life has for you will be for you. You stay on your knees. Do what your parents asked you to do, because we only ask you and direct you. See, this is called parenting. We only render you. God gave you to us. That's parenting. We just render you for a while till you get where you need to go. We just lead and guide and direct you. We have you to do things because we love you and want to see that you don't become a statistic. So this is one of the highlights of my trip, and this is my first time in the jurisdiction, and I deal with the case management study. I copy and steal everything. So when I get home, I'll have a Daryl Smith oratorical contest. So I want to wish you all well. You are an exceptional group of young men, and first impressions are always lasting. And I have to commend you on the respect and the way that you were attired, the way that you carried yourself, the way that you sit in your seats. And always remember, there's somebody that'll always be watching. God bless you all, and congratulations.
As we call the kid's name, we want the District Deputy Grand Masters to come up. Right now, judges, would you please stand, if you don't mind? We have a small token of our appreciation from Grandmaster Ralph Slaughter and the rest of the state of Louisiana and its jurisdiction. Thank you very much. In fourth place, District 11, Mr. Fair. Let's give him another hand. The competition was stiff. It was only off by a few numbers. 1, 2, maybe 3. For all of these young men.
In third place, District 8, Mr. Ezekiel Johnson. Let's give him one more hand, please. Thank you. In second place, Mr. Wells, District 3. And there's also a presentation by his district deputy, Grand Master. You have it with you? I'm going to wait now. In first place, District 7, Mr. Claude. This is his mother. Thank all of you for coming out. Next year, please, let's try to get 16 young men up here. And to the other young men, we definitely have a token of our appreciation that will be mailed out.